to welcome today's guest. I'm a huge fan. Co-host of Politics War Room podcast with Al Hunt, the great James Carville, probably the most famous political strategist in the history of political strategists. I don't know if that's a title you want, but I'm going to give it to you anyway.
I'm not sure. Maybe it's like, as Bill Clinton used to say, he was the smartest candidate. It's like being the smartest of the Three Stooges.
Hey, let's start out with a fill in the blank. The Democratic Party is right now blank.
Constipated.
Elaborate.
Well, we lost an election. Okay, that's number one. So when you lose an election, the old Republicans hate you to start with. Then your own people dislike you because you lost. And the way back is to start winning elections. I do think, Donny, a huge event is going to be Virginia. I think because that's going to set the mood going into the 2026 cycle. I also think that if our brand was not very good, we had three disastrous decisions. One, too many people embraced the language of identity politics. Most of the identity left. That was a disastrous decision.
That was the disastrous. That gave them a chance to kind of tar us the entire way with that. Yes.
Two, Biden stayed in the race too long. People should have said something. And then when he got out, President Obama was correct. He was frantically trying to call people to say, we have to have a contested primary.
Amen.
We were 0 for 3. I don't mean to brag on myself, but I was 3 for 3. I was batting 1,000.
I was right there with you on each one of those, to be honest with you.
So all of the people who embraced identity politics, who said we have no choice, we have to go with Biden, then we can't have a contested primary. Now, these are all the people that are resident geniuses saying what we have to do. Maybe you need to take a breather. Okay.
Speaking of breathers, can we ask the Democratic Party to please, I say this respectfully, step away from AOC and Bernie Sanders? It is not a winning proposition. That doesn't mean they don't have a place in the party. It can't be where the juice of the party is.
First of all, Bernie Sanders ran for president twice. All right, twice. He lost badly both times. The AOC wing, the squad, they never run against Republicans. I just run in a plus 25 district that a cadaver with a D after his name could win. So when you beat a Republican, or Bernie Sanders runs in Vermont, which is the most Democratic Cook PVI leaning state in the country, win an election in Michigan like Senator Slotkin, I will be impressed with you. I will listen to what you have to say. Until you do that, I'm not interested in your opinion on very much. I'm really not.
It's a loser. And this is not against them personally, but if that's what the party stands for, you will lose every single time. Every time.
It is not what the people who vote in Democratic primaries stand for at all. We have never nominated the most progressive candidate, ever. Understand that. It's the press's idea and the commentariat's idea and the left wing's idea, but it is not the Democratic voters' idea of what they want. And to understand the Democratic Party, the most powerful voting bloc in the Democratic Party are Southern blacks. They're not that progressive. Get over it. They tend to, as Jim Clyburn famously said, most conservative person I ever knew in my life was my daddy. They're not into shiny new promises, shiny new objects, any of that. That never goes anywhere.
So I sat in 1992 in the famous War Room. I was one of the ad guys sitting there, and you gave your speech, and you had this up on the wall. You had, "It's the economy, stupid." It's 23 years. It's how many years? 8, 25, 33 years later.
Oh, don't remind me.
It's 33 years later. But is that apropos to say today when it comes to prices, when it comes to inflation, when it comes to, the 1%? Is that a fair way to phrase things?
Of course it is. And it will always be that way. How many economic interactions does a human being have in a day?
Every day.
Every day you're doing something, you're engaging in the economy. You see the gas prices, egg prices become the kind of fashionable thing. interest rates. You look at everything that's going on. And by the way, you say, oh, 48% of the people in the stock market, actually a lot more of that because people have
401k, sure.
have 401ks, that you've got all this pension funds, everything is related. So, and by the way, the 10-year treasury is really acting weird. And
It's acting scary. It's acting scary. It's acting
if you
scary.
remember in the early 90s, I said the Wall Street Journal, basically the bond market rules everything. Yeah, we're all peons compared to the power of the bond market. And that's proven itself to be true every day. And they just don't have confidence in this administration, have any confidence in its economic policy, its trade policy, anything. It's a great opportunity for us.
So you, speaking of opportunities, you wrote a column. Once again, I agree with you. You talk, and I'm like, well, this is my inner voice also, that it's a rope-a-dope time, that the Democrats have got to bide their time a bit, that let things play out and then come out firing. You still feel the same way?
I do. I think it's time to be somewhat more aggressive. If you think of the Revolutionary War, what really won the Revolutionary War was George Washington retreating from Long Island in New York City and setting base camp in Valley Forge. Think about that. If you think about the Battle of Gettysburg, it was actually won on the first day when Buford fell back. He fell back to the fishhook. And for the next 2 days, the Union Army occupied the high ground. Sometimes a pullback can be a very, very effective strategy. Okay, that a pullback is not a surrender. A pullback is not giving in. A pullback sometimes, more than just a few times, is a smart strategy. So people say, oh, James Carville says play possum. I say we attack today. The election is in November of 2026. You're not going to win the thing in April of 2025.
We got a year and a half. We got a year and a half.
Yeah, and the next big event we have is Virginia, because if we win by 3.5, it won't have that big effect. You win by 9.5, you affect recruitment, you affect retirements, you affect fundraising, you affect energy, you affect enthusiasm. And guess what? When you start winning elections again, then the Democrats are going to start liking their own party. And what I'm advocating for is a strategy to win the election, not to raise the most money online overnight.
Something that concerns me with the Democratic messaging now is and I was one of the ones that was on the air talking about democracy, we're in trouble, be careful. And it was not a message that resonated.
Right.
So here we have Mr. Garcia, who was illegally deported, who we know what a dangerous, dangerous situation that is and how it's got to be called out. Yet, does it play into the hands of the Republicans, who still continue to look like the law and order party? They look like the party that wants to get criminals out. I talk to people about due process, and sometimes their eyes glaze over. How do you get that message across in a meaningful way that still is on message for what you need to be big picture?
If you abandon this guy, if a political party abandons this guy who was confiscated and run out of the country and put into prison with nothing, all right, I have no idea, but if the Democratic Party says no, every person's entitled to the law, I don't believe we should pivot to lower food prices. I think that this is an issue of which it demands a unified response on the part of a political party. This issue will not be here, hopefully, in the near future. But I can tell you something that I think is what I do disagree with, and that is this so-called Oligarchs tour. That's only the way that educated people talk.
Yeah,
I don't know anybody.
I haven't heard a focus group in Oligarchs.
Okay?
Yeah,
I'm on the Fat Cat tour. I'm not trying to defend. All right, I'm not trying to defend the 1%. But for God's sakes, don't use a word that no one but you uses. I mean, if you say oligarch, somebody's going to think it's a contagious disease or something. I don't know what. That's how out of touch the left is, because they're all coastal people, and they're all coastal, tend to be run around highly educated people who use the word oligarch. I can assure you, it's not a word that people use, that ordinary people use. They do use the term fat cat. They use the term big shots. All right. You can even go as far to say moneyed interest. I prefer fat cats, but think about that's where they're putting all their chips in oligarch tours, of which most people don't even know what the hell they're talking about.
Let's do another rebranding with another set of words that I don't think come across in the diners in Biloxi, Mississippi, and that is constitutional crisis. How do we reframe that so that it has a more personal, less academic?
Right.
It's everything. But how is it? Do we talk about we're heading to lawlessness? How do we reframe that?
Let's take Biloxi, Mississippi.
Okay.
So I got pulled over because I was doing 65 and a 55. I have to follow the law. Thank God, the trooper was, I don't know, but he'd seen me on TV, and he said, watch yourself, Mr. Carville. But I have to pay the ticket. We don't have the option of not following the law. All right. If we get a parking ticket and we don't pay it, then they triple it, and then they make it 5 times. In anything that we do, how do you pick and choose what law you're going to follow when the average person does not have that choice? She or he has to follow the law.
You bring it down to them. You bring it. You don't make it a abstract concept.
It's not an abstract concept. Everybody in this country was founded on a simple principle that we all learned in the 6th grade. No one is above the law. No one, because the Supreme Court has ruled that the president is above the law, which is idiotic. But that's a concept people can understand. You have to follow the law. The law demands something of you. You have to comply. Why don't they have to comply? If you just leave it at that, it's not rule of law. It's not constitutional. It's not an abstract. It's a real thing when the state trooper pulls you over. It's a real thing.
Talking about the Supreme Court, we haven't gotten DEFCON 3 yet, only because in the Garcia ruling, they left the following sentence after they said facilitate. They said, but we don't want to impinge on the president's foreign policy. There was a little wiggle room. What happens when we get to, okay, let's take it to the next level? There is zero wiggle room. And Trump still goes, you know what? Bring your army. I got one. You don't have one. What does the country do?
Well, first of all, you had a district court said you got to give this guy due process. You had a 3-judge panel say you have to give him due process. They had the Supreme Court 9-0. They get where he can do certain things, but basically they said he's got to have due process. Then it goes back to the district court. He's got to have due process. Then at the appellate court, appellate judge J. Harvey Wilkinson of Richmond, who is the epitome of a really Federal Society conservative Republican, who literally went nuts. What are you doing here? How many times do they have to say, bring this guy back, give him due process? So now I think I got to count of maybe 15 judges. It's 15-0, bring him back. What are we arguing about?
So my question is, what does the country do if Trump, if literally we are out of moves? There's no moves. You can't go, oh, Mr. President, you have to listen to the Supreme Court or else. What's the or else?
I don't know. It's never happened before.
That's where we're headed.
If a municipal judge tells me I got to show up in court, I got to show up in court. If 15 federal judges from district to appellate to the Supreme Court say something, now I guess he could say, I'm just not going to follow that. But that, I don't know how long that would last, because again, Andrew Jackson never said it, but Mr. Justice so-and-so has made his decision, let him enforce it. The courts really don't have much of an enforcement mechanism. They don't have the armed forces. They don't have the DOJ. But I think people, if we just bring it to the abstract, we got to follow the law. We told to do something, and we got to do it. Why they don't have to? And I think you just keep that argument on that level. Now, there's a bunch of things that they can order, I don't know if they could send the U.S. Marshals in. They could have a writ of mandamus. I mean, it's been a long time since I've been in law school. I don't want to get too far out there, but they're tools that they can employ. And the risk of not following this is, I think the average person, his poll ratings have fallen. I was watching Karl Rove, who points out they've fallen 10 points. He started out lower than any president ever began his term. He's lost more than any president's lost in the first 3 months. And I don't know how much more political heat they can take. And I don't know how much longer Republicans can be in favor of ignoring court orders. It's going to come to a head. We just got to believe that it will.
And we're living in tariff land right now. And give me your, I mean, this is one ideology that Trump has held true for 30 years. I mean, I'll give him that. This is something he believes in. How is this going on without him understanding truly what is going on? Does he not give a shit? Does he want the house to fall down so he can build it back up? I keep trying to get into this, the head, the psychology, because we see what's happening. We see what's happening now with Powell. It's the markets hate uncertainty. 401s hate uncertainty. We're heading into a recession. Get inside his head. What is he saying to himself at this point?
Well, I have a rather unique and a minority view. It's controversial. I don't think he likes the United States. I really don't. I don't think he certainly doesn't like our soldiers and sailors. We know that from what he told General Kelly. He does not like our allies. We know that. He sides with Belarus and Russia and North Korea. So I'm not sure that he knows he can't run for re-election. I don't think he pulls for us, but that's my personal view. I don't expect that people have arrived at that conclusion yet. But man, you can't look. I'm watching just like everybody else. I'm watching the red numbers appear on the screen, and at a point, this thing is going to get really, really painful. And it's really painful because what we're seeing as our interest rates go up, and I'm not a financial guy, we watching our currency go down, which literally is a freak bad economic event. And it's still doing that. Somebody's going to have to yell uncle here before long. And it's going to have to be the Republicans in Congress, just because we love the country. We have a different view. But this, I think it was a Republican economist who said that which can't continue won't. I don't think this will continue.
It can't continue. All right. Talk to the New York Jew over here.
Okay.
I saw a Gallup poll that says 83% of Republicans have a favorable view of Israel and 33% of Democrats. Now, Israel is far from perfect, but it's hard to stay engaged as a Jewish guy with a party when you see that. I thought Kamala made a terrible mistake trying to be all things to all people. What's the move? What's the strategic move? Not the moral move, the strategic move for the party when it comes to Jews.
So the first thing, okay, my son-in-law is a Chicago Jew, so I guess that. Look, I have a favorable opinion of the nation of Israel. I do not have a favorable opinion of the government of Israel.
That's fair.
And
That's fair.
And by the way, 48% of the people that live in Israel do not have a favorable opinion of the government of Israel. So, and I've worked in Israel a lot. I've probably been there 6-7 times. But people tend to conflate the nation of Israel and the government of Israel. I love the nation of the United States. I can't stand the current government of the United States. That does not make me anti-American. In fact, it makes me a real American. And, they've made, and this was in the early part of this century, when I would go and I'd meet with like the really smart people, the defense people and stuff, and they would all say the same thing. The settlements are going to bite us on the
heart.
Hey, James. It's just
not good.
And they got into that, and they just kept doubling down. Then the settler party comes, and they give Likud the votes they need, and then more settlements, and they're not right. They're not right. They're not moral. They're not just. They're a bad idea. They're a bad idea on a lot of levels. But countries can make bad decisions. Israel's not the only country that has done that. But like I say, you can't conflate when you ask somebody to have a favorable opinion of Israel.
I hear you.
Most people
I hear
don't
you.
distinguish between the government and the country, but I would do that.
I hear you. I hear you. Let's do a little spitballing for 28. Right now, I think there are some exciting people there. I think Josh Shapiro is really exciting. I think Fetterman is exciting, interesting enough, because he's a character. You can do stuff with a character. I think we are a character-driven world. I mean, both those guys from Pennsylvania. Who do you see as people kind of, we've heard about Bashir. You know, there's a list that we hear, Whitmer. Who do you see if you were going to get Westmore, if you're going to get behind somebody right now? I know that it's hard to do, but just that has the stuff on paper, if you will, to work with.
My problem with people, I see Stephen A. Smith say this. People say, well, I might have to run because of nobody else. That is not true. They are really, really talented people. As I tell people, our bench is full of 350 hitters in AAA. Okay, let's get these guys.
We don't even know what's on the Republican bench.
They don't have it. They don't have it. They're confused. So I want to see the same thing I wanted to see in this past cycle. I want to see 6 of them. But what I thought we should do is have President Clinton and President Obama have 4 town halls around the country, invite 6 people or 7 people to attend, and you would get TV ratings and let's shuffle it out.
It was so obvious that it was actually you were being handed a gift. What they saw was a problem. Oh, we only have 6 weeks. You create a Super Bowl. You dominate the cycle, and you play a Hunger Games, and the strongest survive.
The ratings would have been if you would have gone into the convention and they were cutting. The excitement. The politics is people don't like it because it's not exciting. They don't feel like they have a choice in anything. Why I have a lot of confidence, and I'm not going to say that Andy and Wes or Josh or any of the other people are more. I want to see them play against each other. Okay, I want to see them answer questions. I want to see them face voters. I want to see them in a town hall thing. I want to see them react, and let's let that happen. And I think if you do that, I think the best person's going to come out on top. And I think the Democratic primary voters are not enamored with the shiny new object or the most liberal or most progressive person. They tend to be very, very pragmatic. And I think we ought to trust our voters, and I think we ought to trust our candidates.
How worried should we be about the safety of not even the 28 election, the 26 election?
I thought we lost in 2024. I don't think that we got. I think we did.
No, that's a given.
I'm just saying. That's for somebody else to worry about. All right, okay. And it's something to be concerned about. But what I want us to do is put the best possible foot forward we have with the best agenda, the best ideas. Yes, in the best attack lines, very important to pivot to an attack. And we got the one thing I know, there's a lot of Democratic lawyers, and a lot of them are watching this really close, and let them do their job and let the political operatives do their job. And I just got to trust our lawyers on that.
Do you agree that Trump is a one-off, that that's not where the party is forever, that will not be another Trump in our lifetime? He is a one-of-a-kind, generational character, whether you love him, whether you hate him, and that this is not necessarily the state of the party going forward?
I don't agree with that. It was a Pennsylvania Republican who ran for senator. Her name was Kathy Barnett. She's actually a big MAGA. She said, you got to understand, MAGA was here before Trump, and MAGA will be here after Trump. MAGA is the Republican Party.
So that's it. It's not
Brent Scrokoff is not walking back into he's not coming back. Okay. It's not going to happen. So don't worry about it. But no, I think that MAGA ideology, of MAGA worldview, I think it existed before Trump came along. Probably if you really were the first person to kind of articulate it was in a real way was Pat Buchanan. I think Pat deserves, and he was actually, it's crazy ideas, but actually a pretty charming guy. And
he is a charming. I used to sit with him on Morning Joe. We
disagree on everything. He's the best green room guy in
the stuff he would say off air was, I can't say any of it here, but
yeah, no, it's like I used to do speeches with him, and you'd sit back and you were waiting to go on stage. And he was a great raconteur, but he really believed that. His was not, it wasn't some beat up.
I'll never forget the funniest thing is somebody said to him, this is a great Pat Buchanan story. So wait a second. So supposedly the Democrats stole Illinois. Jack Kennedy's father took it. Why didn't they scream bloody murder? He goes, because we were stealing Kentucky and Arizona.
That sounds like him. but the point is, Trump can. I guess he could be if he wanted to, somewhat charming. But he's. I do think that MAGA will survive Trump, and I think MAGA was here before Trump. I think he was smart enough to see it, exploit it, and he's very good at exploiting things. But this thing is not going anywhere. Before
I let you go, I've never felt the world so on edge.
Oof.
People on edge. Just people are just anxious. Even a lot of people who voted for Trump, they're anxious. You're over 50, aren't you?
80.
So we're going to take some of your wisdom right now. Make people feel better. Give people hope.
I can't.
You can't.
That's a lot. People should be afraid. They should be on edge. They should be nervous, and they should be focusing on no matter who you are. If you don't like this, you want Abigail Spanberger to win in Virginia, and you want her to win big. Okay. Yeah, and you want the Democrats to rake up big congressional majorities, but I cannot tell somebody you shouldn't be afraid. And I get that 5 times a day. People come up to me, James, call me, I'm very scared. What do you think? You have every right to be scared. If you weren't scared, you would be stupid. Okay, and so I cannot tell anybody, don't be afraid. But we and what I would say is, and it's a long way off between November. It's a really long way off between November of next year, but that's our hope.
James Carville, I could talk to you all day, man. You are a gentleman and a scholar. And as I said, everything I read that you say, I'm like, yeah, that kind of makes sense. You just break it down, my friend. So I know how busy you are. I appreciate you taking the time.
I appreciate. I love the way that you communicate, the way you advise people to communicate, and using simple, direct language that people can understand. In other words, not oligarchs, dude.
No. Step away from the oligarchs.
Right.
I'll see you soon, brother.
All right. Take care, man.
Everybody, thanks for watching. If you like it, hit that subscribe button. And we love having you here watching On Brand. And just don't miss any future episodes. So don't forget to hit that subscribe button. We'll see you next time.